Okay, so we're here with Israel, and Israel's very kindly agreed to come out and share some of his ideas. So let's start with a quick kind of 2-minute background as to who you are, what you're working on, and then I've got a few questions for you. So.
Great. My name is Israel Pons. I'm from Mexico. I lead a angel investment in Latin America, which is called Angel's Nest. We've been named by Scala, which is an agency supported by the Inter-American Development Bank, as one of the most active angel network in Latin America. That means that we normally do about one deal per month. I don't know if it's because we are very good or we are very silly at what we do, but we know it's a risky business, so we may as well take the risk when we know we can do it and don't waste our time. We go about 400 angel investors registered in our platform. 70% of them are from Mexico, 30% are international. We do like doing cross-border deals on the startups and scale-ups. We did the largest angel investment first round on a startup in Latin America, which was $1.2 million, which even for more developed markets like the US, UK is a large investment outside the Silicon Valley, of course. And I also head the president of the investment committee of an agro-tech fund in Mexico. I also an advisor on a e-gaming e-sporting fund in Vancouver. And we soon to launch a biotech fund with Europe, Saudi Arabia, and Mexico.
Very good. So you're the right
Keep him busy.
The right man to be here. So look, I've got lots of questions. Sure. Let's start with geography. So Mexico, Latin America. What are some of the trends that you're seeing in that kind of work? What's happened in the last 10 years? What do you see happening in the next 10 years for someone? I'm on the other side of the world. I'm in Asia, so I don't know much about that space. So tell me what's the scene like?
Yeah, I think with trends, and I like that you asked that question, because with trends you have to be quite careful. So you see the trends that get published a lot. So that's like, you can go with a trend that everybody's going with, maybe because they've been very good at public relations, and I put it out there.
In 10-year terms, rather than what we see a lot of. And you've been here every year that I've been here, and there's definitely these annual things, like if it's in the media, cryptocurrency or cannabis or whatever the trend is. But longer term trends, I think, is where you start to learn something.
And I think in Latin America, what the trends within the investment industry has been in the past years. So everything that has to do with financial access. So empowering, and yes, now we call it fintech, but 5 years ago we were calling it something else. And I think once you have a market that needs access to finance, that those problems cannot be solved in 3 years or 4 years. Why cannot they be solved in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? Because that solution is not just that it's been invented or created by an entrepreneur or the technology can do it, but the regulatory issues are the hardest ones to change. So you have a lot of trends that get created, then they get established, and then they start operating, and then you see whether or not they can be financially viable. So what has been turned into a fintech industry now, it's probably been working for the past 10 years in Mexico and Latin America. Mexico was the second country in the world to have a fintech law approved after the UK. So that has created a domino effect onto the rest of Latin America with new fintech laws being approved. That means then the things that are quite new, like cryptocurrency, crowdfunding platforms, etc., online investing, then now is regulated, but it also means that now more people have access to investing.
Okay, very interesting. That is interesting. So I guess the implications then, if you're an international investor and you're interested in that space, then is it pretty easy from an international perspective to kind of get access? Because obviously the longer those regulations are in place, the more mature and more developed the opportunities are. Is it fairly easy to get access to?
I think that somewhere like Mexico, I have to say, as a foreign investor, as a cross-border investor, is probably one of the best places to invest in Latin America, because we have, apart from having these commercial treaties with other countries, like we have with the US and Canada, with the TMEC agreement, the North American agreement, that includes things like investments. Yep. That includes regulation. So Mexico is the country with the most international treaties signed. So we have 36 treaties signed. So that means that if you're from Asia, we probably have agreements for you in place. Yeah. If you're from Europe, definitely we have with the whole of European Union. If you are from the UK, because the European Union Treaty doesn't apply, we just renew a new one with the UK. If we just have one signed with China. So if as a foreign investor, if you're an angel investor, early stage investor on startups, scale-ups, as long as you're co-investing with somebody in Mexico, you'll be well looked after.
Okay, so let's talk about that early stage. You know, as you know, I tend to favour the later stage companies. The different risk appetite from you, but also I've noticed most people that play in that very early stage aren't still doing it a few years later, whereas you're really committed to it. You mentioned you're doing nearly a deal a month. What's separating you in terms of that commitment to it, and clearly you've been seeing some results. So what are the key lessons that you've learned, and that if someone, because the appeal obviously with early stage is the possibilities, the chance to get really massive returns are
the 0.00001 chance of getting a return, and you say, why do you keep buying lottery tickets if you know
possibility, not probability?
The odds are against you.
Yes, but on those occasions when they come in, they're very lucrative. So if somebody's thinking, and look, I think a lot of investors sort of have their alternative bucket that they play in the angel space. What are some of the things that you've learned that give you a better chance of success?
I think the fact that once you start becoming an early stage investor, I think the worst mistake you can make is to stay in that stage. I think you have to spread your portfolio and start diversifying your risk onto the next stages of those investments. So if you want to be with the new trends, with the new technologies, with where's it going to be in the next 10 years, sometimes to get into a good deal in later stages is quite difficult. So I think you're quite right. I have had my great falls from investment in early stages. That has taught me that I should be able to also be investing through a fund or through other innovative or disruptive investment liquidity that can generate. Because if you lose money, it's very easy to get disheartened, and then you're not having fun anymore. And we say that as an angel investor, you should have fun with your investments. But if you start losing money all the time, it just doesn't make it fun. So therefore, you should be looking for these new ways of creating liquidity, so that you know that even on those projects that are bigger, or companies that you went in 4 or 5 years ago, that you still cannot get out of it because there is no VC or private equity for the thesis to go into, that there is another alternative, disruptive or innovative way of investing that can give you liquidity. And I think that's why I still here after these many years, because it's not that I lose money on the startups, it's basically because I found other ways of diversifying my portfolio.
Yeah, very interesting. It's one of the things, as I'm talking tomorrow morning about some of the challenges that a typical investor faces, and I think for many investors, they just don't have the resources to get the breadth of knowledge. But I imagine that by being part of a fund that's doing the volume of deals that you're doing, you're getting a lot more of those learning cycles, whereas maybe a typical angel investor might only get 1 or 2 of those learning cycles before potentially giving up. Very, very interesting. Now look, you talked about having fun as an investor, and honestly the talk of the event here in Istanbul over the last couple of days has been a concept that you came up with, which is called Pitch at the Beach. Everyone's talking about it. Tell me about this. Where did this come from?
Great. Well, I had to be. I'm honest with you. When people ask me, it's like, what did this cool concept comes from? The cool in the loose terms, because I'm an 80s guy of using the word cool. But I was drinking mezcal one night on my own, as you do.
Right.
Not that I'm an alcoholic. My name is I'm an alcoholic. I love mezcal. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I got my own brand of mezcal as well. So I will make sure you take a bottle back.
I give you a book. You give me a bottle of mezcal. That's a good exchange.
That's a great deal. Cross-border investment, books and bottles of mezcal. So after four shots, and I was feeling very like I got tired of going to places like the US and going to TechCrunch and Collision and all these events where you are with thousands of people there. And I thought, well, why can't we create our own thing in Latin America and bring people over? And, you got great places, great beaches in Latin America. And that came up with Pitch at the Beach. So what is Pitch at the Beach? Pitch at the Beach, normally when you go to an event and we go to conferences, you dress like this. Someone like me who tends to be a speaker, then I'll put a tie on because it's up. So you dress up for things. You become with a paradigm. Or if you're attending, then you take your notebook and you say, okay, I'm going to go and see that speaker. And you take a couple of notes from the keynote and you think, I'll take it away. And that's it. And for 2 days, that's what you're doing. And then you go to the coffee break and you have some biscuits and you have some coffee, normally a terrible coffee. And you end up talking to the same people all the time. So you have entrepreneurs talking to entrepreneurs, investors talking to investors, and nobody's doing real networking opportunities. So Pitch at the Beach is about getting undressed. In the loose term of some people
drinking
can do that.
Drinking
mezcal and dress at the beach.
It seems to be taking a weird turn.
But it's 3 days. And what we do, it is basically, we start at 3 o'clock, the event, 3 o'clock in the afternoon during the 3 days. So in the morning, you can do pretty much whatever you like. You can be at the beach, you can relax. But what happens, and I ask you this, Callum, what happens when you go to a beach, for example, in Thailand, if you go to Phuket, you are yourself. You relax. You undress.
Very rarely wear a suit on a beach.
Exactly. I don't know that many people who do. But you don't get dressed up for the beach. You actually want to look at it. You want to relax. So your mindset is very different. So we create that connectivity between people. That human connection is the number one point. It's not about going in and pitch an investment, and it's not about investors going in to see pitches, because everybody does that. It's about this human connection. So the first day we always talk about new technologies, new trends, verticals from different parts of the world. Where is the future of angel investment going? Where's the future of technology going? This year we talk about artificial intelligence and how it's changing the business models and how it's integrating to different startups. Second day we just talk about the soft skills of the entrepreneur. We never worry about these people and their psychic level. I mean, psychologically, you suffer as an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. Those no's that we receive, they really take the air out of your stomach. So we talk about how an entrepreneur should be with his or her well-being. And then on the third day, it's all about investments, new ways of investing, disruptive ways of raising funds, VCs, if they're crazy, they're not, how they do it. And then each night we finish with 7 pitches. And this year we had projects from 18 different countries. People come in and they spend 3 days together. What people are saying to us, the feedback is they make friends and they starting to do business afterwards. And it's not just that somebody receive investment. That the most important thing that you can do is, 1 is create your network. 2 is trust your network. 3 is how I monetize my network. And that's what Pitch at the Beach is all about.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And it's again, one of the things I talk about is why a lot of investors lose out on opportunities is that they don't have the profile, they don't have the network. So Warren Buffett gets offered deals that you and I would never get offered to. Tim Ferriss got access to Uber in the early days because of his profile. The average investor just doesn't have those opportunities. But most of the opportunities we get come from our network. And you're absolutely right, and it's so easy to forget. And we actually do an event ourselves once a year in Singapore, and it's kind of an unconference, and we haven't quite disrobed to the effect that you guys have. But again, it's bringing the business owners that we work with and the investors together, and it's more of an education piece. But one of the things we did last year was we asked everyone there to talk for 7 minutes on any topic unrelated to business.
Great.
So they had to talk about something. So we had a guy there that was talking about a trip across South Africa that he'd taken his kids on.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating. And somebody else was talking about, this sounds very dark, but it was a case of depression in one of her staff and how their company had changed that. But actually what you found was the humanity in people. And everyone connected at a much deeper level. Yeah. And then you can start having conversations building on that. But so it makes very good sense to me, and it's clearly resonated with people here, because I think you already had a whole bunch of people say, oh, we want to replicate this in different markets.
Can you come to South Africa? Well, I don't know. Can I go to South Africa? Or, can I go to Thailand? Can I go to Indonesia? Can I go to... Yeah, it's been great that we had that feedback. It's certainly, this project was born. We have done a couple of pitch at the beach. We still don't know how is it going to evolve, and that's the great thing about it. It's not an event that was born by event managers, commercial purpose. It just grew in itself. And I think also that what you're doing, and what sometimes you say, look, going back to the serious stuff, is that when you look for liquidity as an angel investor, you said you come in and you want to have fun. You're having fun, and then you stop having fun because there's no money in it. I don't know many angel investors that have had exits above 3x or 2x. Let's be honest, 80% of the angel investors here haven't had one above 3x. Yep. So what do you do? We're talking about this, maybe we will get some liquidity. It's like, we need people like yourself, the way that you had set up this formula to create liquidity and to say, if in your portfolio you have a company that can have A, B, and C, we can create liquidity so the company keeps growing. Okay, there is a gap in Series A to Series C. Maybe we can do it with you. In my market, we do have that problem. In my region, okay. And my investors need liquidity to keep having fun. And they'll say, okay, so I'll have fun in early stage, but also, you know what, there's so much fun to find a formula that actually works. Yeah. And you can say, I don't know how that works, but that actually worked. Yeah. Just like Pitch at the Beach works and your formula works, 99% of angel investors out there that are not here will not get to know you, will not get to know me, and they won't have fun, and they'll say, we won't invest in startups anymore. Because they just lose money. Yeah, no, the burnout rate is very, very high. Cool. So look, I want to finish on, and by the way, that's fascinating. I really do think, like, regardless of, well, first of all, encourage you to go to the next pitch on the beach. That's great. But just understanding that those best opportunities often come from your network, and building, like, deliberately building that network is a really key element. So I just want to finish on impact, and impact is something that you can't escape in this world. At the moment, it's kind of everyone's talking about it, impact, ESG. What are you seeing down in Mexico and Latin America? And specifically what I'm interested in is not so much, there's a lot of people talking about it, but where you actually see results. Like for myself in small business, what I'm interested in is an investment which will actually lead to job creation. That to me is very tangible, very measurable. What are some of the things that you're seeing, either that some of the companies you're seeing are solving, or that some of the investors, some of the investors that you're working with are saying, no, I only want to invest in this type of project? Yeah, one of the things that we are seeing quite a growth quite dramatically in the last year with our investors that have asked us to have is the gender issue and the impact on gender issue, because they like, okay, so 90% of my portfolio is led by men. The co-founders are both men. 90% of the workforce is men. for one reason or another. They never turn around and look at that fact. So I think they're being influenced by this generation globally of the gender equality, which I think is quite positive. So now we are looking always, one of the areas that we're looking is whatever project will get funded, we try and get an angel investor, there's women on the round. And obviously we look for startups that have a co-founder that is women. Very difficult right now. This is a nice to have element, but it cannot dictate your portfolio. But now it's a bit of an impact that they have asked us to consider, the angel investors. The other one is obviously this part of social impact in economies, emerging economies like Mexico and Latin America. The social impact issue is very important. So anything to do with the environment and to do with the social community with in certain regions of Latin America is very important. If you're doing something positive for that group of people where you operate your startup. So those are things that we now measure. We measure with Scala and within the Inter-American Development Bank. We have managed to invest in a lot of the companies that have the job creation, but also we look not just at job creation, but the remuneration. That has been an issue in Mexico and Latin America because we do have cheap labor. How do we know that we have cheap labor? Well, you have to ask the Japanese companies that are moving out of China to move to Mexico.
Right.
It's because our labor is even cheaper than the Chinese, and that's something. So we are now looking at levels of remuneration within the startups. Obviously, not affecting the financial model and making sure that everything is fine.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so just on that, are you getting the sense that your investors are really serious about this, or does it feel like it's something that they feel like they should be talking about?
I think they feel they should be talking about it. I think one or two that have a bit more. That's a positive thing,
shift,
yes.
yeah.
But I can't say to you like, okay, so all the investors are savvy enough that this is something that is right, because there are within the angel investors there are paradigms that they bring themselves that sometimes they also say, well, and you have to work with people's sometimes limitations on that side.
Sure.
And it's not that my angels are limited, but you know that there are certain things that need to change, and I think they're just being bombarded so much by these positive impact issues, which is a good thing, that they're now considering it. So I think it's a reaction to what is being talked out there, that they say, well, maybe I should include it in my profile of how I filter projects.
Very cool. Well, look, I'm very conscious of time. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure
Thank you.
to connect.
No,
it's great.
excellent. And
I hope that I will see you on a beach, and encourage you to look out for Pitch on the
Definitely.
Beach. Come down to Mexico.
And you want to try good mezcal at the beach as well, because this is sponsor. The mezcal is sponsor of the event, so we'll invite you. Thank you very much for the space, and it'll be a fantastic online conference that you're going to do. So I'll be looking out for it.
Cool.